Welcome to the only program on the continent of Africa that focuses on the journey and the vision of the continent of Africa to integrate its market. And this week, we're going to take you all the way to the CILT 2022 Africa Forum, where loads of calls were made for transport, logistics and supply chain to move along with implementation of the AfCFTA. Now, that call was made by the Secretary General of the AfCFTA Secretariat, as well as government ministers who attended that particular program. Listen.
Industry players have acknowledged the need to prioritize transport supply chain logistics simultaneously with the implementation of the AfCFTA in order for the continent to achieve optimum benefits from the Single Continental Market Agreement. Speaking at the 2022 Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport Africa Forum in Accra, a Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Herbert Krapper, said the AfCFTA offers the opportunity to develop intra-regional value chains that goes beyond only exploiting and exporting raw materials from the smallest supplier to the big manufacturers.
We must develop linkages that enhance our ability and capacity to feed industry in a sustainable way. If we are to reap the full benefits of our integration agenda, much of our efforts must be to ensuring that all participants are on the right side of the value chain.
Minister of Transport, in a speech delivered on his behalf by his deputy, Hassan Sulemana Tampuli, said AfCFTA and Africa's transport infrastructure programs were intrinsically linked and should be implemented simultaneously, and call for the need to develop programs including the Trans-African Highways and Single African Air Transport Market at the same level with AfCFTA.
It's therefore important that we prioritize development programs including the Trans-Africa Highways, the Program for Infrastructure Development (PIDA), and the Single African Air Transport Market (SATA) at the same level after.
Addressing participants at the CILT Africa Forum, the Secretary General of the AfCFTA Secretariat emphasized that transport and logistics and AfCFTA were interdependent and mutually reinforcing.
Poor logistics services, such as insufficient coordination between countries regarding border procedures, inefficiency of customs clearance systems, fragmented and substandard transportation infrastructure, expensive and infrequent shipping routes, delays in tracking and tracing consignments, delays in terminal handling and clearance of goods can cause significant hindrance to the successful implementation of the AfCFTA.
So transportation infrastructure, very, very key if we need to trade among ourselves as a continent. And if you have followed this platform, similar calls have been made on the platform by experts who are advocating that we need to explore inland waterways systems, for instance, as a means to transport goods on the corridors of Africa, and also take a look at short sea shipping, for instance, as a means of trading among ourselves. All these are transportation infrastructures that are being called upon to be utilized and be considered by the continent. Otherwise, we cannot take proper advantage of the AfCFTA. And even with the roads that are already burdened, we need to be able to fix them and all of that. So at that same CILT Africa Forum, Dr. Farid Arthur, who is the head of the National Coordination Office of the AfCFTA in Ghana, also charged businesses to brace themselves for competition as we all prepare for commercially meaningful trading under the AfCFTA. Listen.
On the issue of competitiveness, that when I start producing, another person will start producing, that is the nature of the market. The more competitive the market is, the better the African consumer will be served. So we must not be afraid of that competitiveness. When you start producing and the other producers, then produce better. Otherwise, your goods will go out. So I don't think that should be something that we should be trying to protect ourselves against. And on the final issue of bringing on board the educational institution, I want to thank you very much. It is something that we've also been thinking seriously about. We're working with NEPAD to try and set up a center of excellence at CSIR. We are also discussing with GIMPA to set up a training center at various levels for stakeholders. There is request to set up AfCFTA chair at the UPS, at the Department of Law. So there are several institutions that are interested.
So I hope you got the hints from Dr. Farid Atta that institutions are requesting to have desks and chairs at the various institutions specifically for AfCFTA. And this is what we have hinted you right from the beginning of this program. The earlier you understand it, tag along and be impacted by it positively, the better it is for you. He also talked about bracing ourselves for competition, and that's what we are also hinting, that it is important that you brace yourself for competition, whether you are in production, whether you're trading, or whether you are offering services. What Dr. Farid Atta is saying is that if you don't brace yourself for competition, when competition comes from other countries into your country, you'll be kicked out. We are going to go all the way to Cote d'Ivoire to see how they are getting competitive as a country and see how we can, here in Ghana, can also learn from what is going on in Cote d'Ivoire, because we are being told that even logistics are being taught in universities in English, despite the fact that Cote d'Ivoire is a francophone country. So they are getting competitive, and a lot of other things are being done. Let's go listen.
Capacity building is something that's really everywhere we need, but especially in Africa, we need to increase the capacity level of our people. Yeah. So by expanding, based on our approach, our strategy, we're confident that the future will be better. Not only for Cote d'Ivoire, because the people we're training all of them will not stay in Cote d'Ivoire. Yeah. It's just, building capacity of people, all the CLT training are in English.
I see.
The idea is to be more competitive. Okay. Not only to think in silo, to just focus on the francophone zone, but to be more competitive for the students at the end of the program, to be on the market, on the international market. Let's take my example. I'm from Cote d'Ivoire, yes, but now I'm working in many public organizations. Now I'm based in Cote d'Ivoire now. Okay. I was in Ethiopia. But if you want to work in the public sector, international organizations, at least you have to speak 2 languages. Yeah. Not focus only on English. You have also to learn French to be useful, more useful, so that you will not focus on your zone and stay in your comfort zone, but you have to think. We are talking about thinking globally. I will say we have to talk African League. So CLT program we will propose in Cote d'Ivoire either in French or in English.
How then do you think that this will be able to help Cote d'Ivoire position itself well in taking advantage of the AfCFTA?
Cote d'Ivoire needs to grow and to be well positioned to build the Africa we want. And CFTA, it's a very good instrument to do that. No more barriers, starting not focus on the 27 million of people in Cote d'Ivoire, but now focus on the 1.3 billion of people on the continent. Let us no more focus only on ECOWAS. If you take my example, when I was living in Ethiopia, I've discovered that there are few connections between Western Africa and Eastern Africa. Yeah. There are many needs there, but we are not aware of them even in Western Africa. Let's take the example of Shea Butter. They use that one a lot. Shea Butter in Eastern Africa. Really? Because of the weather, it's very cold, and Shea Butter can get your skin within that water in a good condition, soft, dry, so on. There is a great market of Shea Butter in East Africa. Really? But the one who can benefit of that, they are using the informal way. Mm-hmm. We don't have a very good trading and also to build an industry and then try to select ship your goods from Western to Eastern or to Addis Ababa, for instance. Yeah. Another one is the leather market. They produce a lot of leather.
Yeah.
We prefer to buy shoe, bags, and leathers from out of the continent.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of needs, but we don't communicate a lot.
Yeah.
First, information,
Yeah.
awareness, and then building, using those opportunities to grow. CFTA may take time, but we have to stop talking negativity.
Yeah.
And try to assist what each of us can do to let that instrument be operationalized, really.
Beyond training logisticians in English, for instance, in Abidjan, what else is Abidjan, for instance, doing that tells you that the country is preparing towards a bigger continental market? We heard about your port expansion, for instance. What else?
In collaboration with the National Committee in charge of the implementation of African CFTA, working closely with the private sector, because there were many instruments where the private sector was not involved since the beginning. So they are part of the decision making, sharing their concerns, their challenges. Let's take the example of the border, between Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, or the border between Cote d'Ivoire and Burkina, for instance. So this private sector, listening from the woman entrepreneur who is cross-border traders, for instance, the challenge they're facing, this kind of information has been shared with the national government to improve the customs systems, for instance.
Oh, that's good.
We are moving from a normal customs system to a purely, 100% electronic one.
Really? That's what Cote d'Ivoire is doing.
It will be launched in 2023. Wow. That's one of the operational
customs
electronic
at the borders.
Exactly, at the borders, at all the entry points of Cote d'Ivoire. So it will for sure improve, fast track the process in terms of time, cost, and when you reduce people connection, also it has an impact on
corruption.
Exactly. I didn't want to be the first to use that word. So that's one example, but the national government is pushing, involving the different stakeholders within the process to make sure that we are all moving on the same way together.
In terms of infrastructure, for instance, what sort of trade infrastructures are being put in place?
In Cote d'Ivoire, what has been done, there is a highway connection with Burkina, Mali, and Niger. The highway was only less than 200 kilometers. Now we are going further. In the future, it will go to almost 400. And then even in 2 or 3 years, we go more, again, to shorten the lead time between the north and the south, and also between the borders, the country, the neighbors, and us, just for the goods to reach Abidjan port in a shortened time with less control points, less barriers, less checkpoints and control points. So that's one example in terms of infrastructure. Many roads, because when we talk about infrastructure in transport, roads, rail, and air. So if you focus on roads, it's not the only one that we're doing. Cote d'Ivoire is under construction. We feel it. We feel it.
The whole country.
The traffic, because we're building everywhere, roads everywhere. The number of kilometers, the good ones, has really increased. So that shows you how we just implement and try to push all the different elements in the entire ecosystem. We're working on on infrastructure. We're also working on the documents to facilitate the implementation of these instruments.
I heard about the port expansion. Is it completed now?
Still ongoing.
Okay.
Still not yet finalized, but still ongoing.
To what extent will that also open the logistics space and infrastructure of Abidjan?
The capacity of our port will grow because if you look at the rating, of the different ports across the continent, you will see that Abidjan port is one of the best. But we're trying to increase our capacity, not only for us, because it's a hub. We really want to help benefits the region, the inland countries like Burkina, Mali, and Niger, all of them.
With the rail line, how far is that project also going?
Okay, for now on, it's still Abidjan and Burkina Faso. Okay. Yes, Ouagadougou. Now on, but with improving the way it is now. I mean, in terms of system, for the railway, the line is there, but the system. I mean, the capacity of the facilitation tool, IT system, was not very well done. So we work on it to reduce the time, the lead time, but when you process from the port, because most of the items and the goods and the containers that were loaded on the rail are coming from the port. Most of them, I can say more than 50%, are coming from the port. So by connecting the port and the rail to reduce the lead time is really helping the volume in terms of volume and efficiency of our system.
What are you seeing in Cote d'Ivoire as far as this whole new agenda and vision of the continent to integrate its market is concerned?
This preparedness includes all the stakeholders within the chain. The public authority, the national government, the population, youths, women, and men, all of them, all the components of the population, and also the education system. All those different components are working together to ensure that the new generation, for the new generation, the Ivorian people, to be ready for competition. Cote d'Ivoire is just trying to operationalize the decision that has been taken. Someone said CFTA is a very good instrument, but for CFTA, the politicians took the lead. They took the decision to launch it. And now the technicians, we are the technicians, we are struggling to follow the implementation of that decision. Some of us are criticizing even that decision, but we have to be very positive and push to let it be.
So Cote d'Ivoire is getting competitive. They are teaching logistics in English. They are learning at the various universities in English. You are here, you're like me, you can't speak any other language apart from English. No French, no Portuguese, no Hausa, no nothing. That is not good. Get competitive as we are embracing other countries, other products, other services from other countries. Now, if you head there, the East African countries are requiring a lot of shea butter. And not just shea butter, if you go across the continent, there are products in different countries that are needed in other countries, yet we don't know about them. Now here in Ghana, for instance, there is abundance of shea butter, and a young man in Upper West region is putting shea butter into serious use. He's adding value to shea butter. He's put together and brought together a lot of women in the Upper West region who are making good use of shea butter and earning a living out of it. The young man is making a lot out of it. He's a national service personnel, but making a lot out of it and also giving life to the women in the Upper West region. Listen to his story.
I live in Wa, where there are so many opportunities, and then also in the midst of these opportunities, there are so many problems that our rural folks are faced with. That has to do with issues of poverty, migration, tree cutting and stuff. So I looked for solutions in the rural areas where we could capitalize on to sort of solve this problem. And I realized they had shea butter, and there's something that is used in almost every pharmaceutical industry, cosmetic industry. So I realized, okay, so we could use this one to actually solve the issue of poverty and then reduce the migration that is going on. So this is how the whole idea of Inspire Legacy Shea Butter came up. It's been an amazing journey since 2019. So there was a need to educate them on how to process the shea butter, make it clean and very hygienic for the market. So engaging with the women in capacity building, skills training, especially involving the FDA in our processes has been some of the things that we've done so far to make sure our shea butter is the best and quality. We also engage the youth, especially the young ladies in the region, on how to produce the cream. We have the Shea Butter cream as well, where we mix with other essential oils such as coconut oil, olive oil, and lavender oil. It's been an interesting journey, especially working with the women in the rural areas. You see that the women are very passionate about what they do, and they are looking for such opportunities. Okay, they produce the Shea Butter in bulk, and sometimes they don't have people coming around to buy them. We currently have 5 centers in the Upper West region where we have not less than 10 women in each of these centers. So averagely, we have 50 women in total that we work with. Okay, and then we hope to replicate this in other communities as well, because just like I said earlier on, Shea Butter is found in almost every community in Upper West. It will only be nice that we engage these women in a production of Shea Butter so that they don't go back to cutting down the trees to burn charcoal, which is going to cause high climatic conditions, so that the young ladies don't migrate, okay, to the urban centers to cause too much pressure here, and also engage in other activities that do not necessarily help them. We have the materials, we have the raw materials that can really help us if we want to develop as a nation. So that is why we have decided to focus on this aspect of socioeconomic development. It's been something that we've had a lot of interest. We have people from Kenya, we have people from Botswana reaching out, and you could see that this is something that is very, very much needed in other African countries because they do not have it. So the demand has been there. Last week, we had someone reach out from Kenya interested in knowing about Shea Butter. He wants to know how Shea Butter can get to Kenya. Okay, another man last month contacted us from Botswana. He also wants to know how he can get Shea Butter to Botswana. And it's been mind-blowing, especially in Kenya, where we are getting most of the calls from, most messages from. I believe that there's a huge market for Shea Butter in these countries. So Shea Butter is widely used for various purposes, especially in our rural areas. It is used for cooking. Okay, I personally like to use Shea Butter to cook. It's also used for massage. It's also used for cream, as a cream on your body, and it's a very, very good product for hair growth. You know, in the northern part of the country where there's high temperature, Shea Butter is one of the products that when you use it actually protects you, and even in the southern part as well. And I understand in India it is also used as butter for bread. Okay, so we have a friend in India who is interested in just buying the Shea Butter to be used as bread. Just like how you pour your cooking oil in a silver. Okay, you just take a piece of it and then you drop it in a hot saucepan and then it melts. And when it melts, this is how I use it for my jollof recipe. So I melt it up and cut my onion in it, add my other ingredients, and then there I go. So, and it has a very organic, natural flavor. We went through the processes of FDA and everything was good. Lo and behold, we got our FDA approval after going through all that processes. First time I heard about AfCFTA, I was so amazed. I was like, wow, this is very interesting. This is something that would really, really help us, especially with the calls we are getting from other African countries. I was wondering, how do we get this to other African countries, especially with the cost of duty, the stress you're going to go through, and how it wouldn't obviously be easy to transport this Shea Butter product to other African countries. So it was a headache. Sometimes you'd have to intentionally not reply certain messages because you don't know how. And this is just something we've started, and it's barely 3 years old, and we don't have that capacity to bear cost of even to get certification, export certification, and other things needed to export your products to other African countries. So when we heard about AfCFTA, it was amazing. I must tell you, it was something that we were very, very happy with, and then we've been eager take part in it and then enjoy what the policy is. So AfCFTA would really help us a lot. This would take our business to the next level. We had a man who was interested in buying from us, also from Rwanda. Okay, and that was about 2 years ago. We had no idea. We didn't know the processes, okay, especially when it comes to the duties. We didn't know how to start. So unfortunately, we lost that. But then lo and behold, we are still in touch with the man and communicating, and we've told him about, so he's aware of the AfCFTA as well, and we're like, wow, this is good for us. So we are going to be able to, through AfCFTA, we are going to be able to send our products to Rwanda without paying duties for it. We're also going to be able to send them to our customers in Botswana, Kenya, satisfy the market there, and even in Nigeria, where we know there's also a huge demand for shea butter there. So AfCFTA is going to help us. AfCFTA it came at a point where we really needed it. This is the time where we needed the youth in Ghana in business, or in social entrepreneurship. This is the time we needed something like this, and then it's very satisfying to know that it has come. So AfCFTA is really going to help us a lot. I believe the governments of various African countries have done very, very well, especially initiating the AfCFTA policy through the African Union. The area that I am working in, that is social entrepreneur, it wouldn't have been easy if I didn't have a partner, Dr. Mohamed Buhiji, who has been very, very supportive. So I believe, apart from AfCFTA, the government of various African countries should still collaborate and then make sure this is going to be a long-standing policy. This will not just be a policy that is going to exist for 5 years, 10 years. This should be a standing policy that will exist for a very, very long period of time. Because in Ghana, we have lots of products that are not in Kenya, are not in Rwanda, are not in South Africa. And they also have a lot of products that not here as well. So various African leaders of various African countries should know that African countries need to interdepend on each other, such that products can move to and fro. And that would only be possible if the AfCFTA policy would be a long-standing policy and will not change. So if this can be done, then people like me will be rest assured we have something to be hopeful about.
So we congratulate Godfred for that wonderful initiative. A national service personnel, look at what he's doing, touching a lot of lives in Upper West region, adding value to that raw material we have in this country, the shea butter. And a lot of people in Kenya, they are looking for this. There are lots of people in Botswana, Malawi, Tanzania, in Ethiopia, they are looking for this. And this is what the young man is trying to put together. And once AfCFTA is here, he can be able to transport all these products and start making money, earning for country, earning for himself, and giving life to people. Now, schedules of flights that are leaving the commercial capital of Africa, that's Accra, to the rest of African cities, also the forex rate for the African market, the AfCFTA party status, and the weather report for all African cities. Next. That should be it for this week's episode of the Single African Market, and I hope I have been able to bring some idea around the AfCFTA closer to you and bring you also closer to the AfCFTA. I hope to see you same time next week.
There's a African righteousness in the name of great Africa. It's a fight and conquer now.